All right. Hello, everyone. How you doing? Pardon if I seem a bit out of sorts. We just wrapped up a 28-hour stream for Elden Ring Night Rain, going from Friday, May 30th through Saturday, the 31st. And it was a wild time. Yeah, 28 hours. It was a lot of fun. But one thing that came up, and I've had this issue, other people have had this issue. People were asking, how do you absorb focus points with the Recluse? Recluse is my main. I love magic. You probably get a get a glimpse of that here on YouTube with the YouTube banner. And if you come over to our Twitch page, and I'll put the link down in the description below, uh, you'll see the same banner there, in addition to our lovely emote collection of wizards. So yes, we're all about magic and wizardry over on our channel. So of course I had to go with the Recluse. And I had no idea how to absorb focus points. And so let me read to you real quick how to do that. I actually typed this up, and I think it was pretty well composed, which is why I'm just going to read it to you. I put this in someone else's Discord who was having the exact same confusion that I was experiencing. And so let me tell you what I discovered. Okay. So in my message, I say the Recluse is my main. I had to look up how to absorb focus points. There's no Flask of Cerulean Tears like in base Elden Ring. So unless you buy or find the Starlight Shards consumable, then you must learn how to absorb FP with her. On her ability screen, it is written, discover affinity residues that can be collected to replenish FP. Affinity attacks create affinity residues. This leads me to wonder, what are affinity residues? What do they look like? They're little balls of light that fall off enemies when an affinity attack lands and must be run over to collect, like in Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origin. Further, what are affinity attacks? To these first three questions, there is no answer anywhere in the game. To the final question regarding affinity attacks, there is a mention in the handbook of the visual codex, but it's so vague as to be wholly inadequate. In the heading for attack infinities, it is mentioned armaments, magic, items, and enemy attacks all possess different damage affinities. It then says that damage can be physical or non physical, that physical damage is divided between standard, striking, slashing, and piercing, and that remaining damage types are divided between fire, magic, lightning, and holy. Finally, it is written some enemies are especially vulnerable to certain damage affinities, which are also more likely to cause stagger. None of this answers the question as to what affinity attacks actually are. Does this mean all attacks are affinity attacks? Or only physical? Or only magical? Regardless, must an enemy be hit with a primer attack first, and then a follow-up attack that matches the previous attack's specific damage type to trigger an affinity, like following a piercing attack with another piercing attack immediately after? Or is an affinity attack an attack that exploits an enemy weakness, like if a monster is weak to fire, will hitting with a single fire attack trigger an immediate affinity? None of this is mentioned in the game, and I had to go look it up. So, for those wondering, an affinity attack is an elemental attack: fire, magic, lightning, holy. The elemental attack can be inflicted with anything: an item, spell, or a weapon. The enemy needn't be weak to that element, and you don't have to follow that elemental attack immediately afterwards with another attack of the same element. Simply hitting an enemy with any single elemental attack will change the Recluse's targeting reticle to that element's color for absorption using the Recluse's character ability. Elements upon your teammates inflicted with from enemies, can also be absorbed. Sadly, this inadequate and sometimes completely missing information is the case for many things in this game. So, yes, for those of you who are curious, that is what affinity is in this game. That is what affinity attacks are. And just use the Recluse's ability. If you're on PlayStation, I'm on PlayStation, you have to press triangle and then tap L2. And you can use that when you're locked onto an enemy or locked onto one of your teammates to absorb focus points. If you're on PC, I can't tell you the key combo, but you know, you might be able to develop a macro that will just hit those two keys for you. I wish I could just develop a macro on PlayStation because it feels like a weird button combo. Half the time, I wind up pressing the shoulder button first before the triangle button. But anyway, that's what affinity attacks are, and that is how to create an affinity in order to absorb the focus points with the Recluse. So just to get that out there to help you all, um, have a good time with Elden Ring Night Rain, and I'll see you in Limville. Bye.